What's good, everybody? My name is the Generation 71. Thank you for tuning back into this. We're gonna classify it as a rant video. Honestly, I think it's just me explaining my point of view on a certain couple of things, but I do know that after people see it, they're gonna see it as a rant. I guess before we even get to the meat of the video, I should address that this is in fact adding to drama. I mean, I like to say that I'm just acknowledging it and make sure people know about it, but in a sense, by acknowledging it, you're adding to it, and I understand that, but I still feel like all this needs to be said. So that being said, let's go ahead and just get right into it. So you kind of pretty much know what the topic of the video is going to be with the gameplay you're seeing up on screen. It's actually GOROD KROVI, I think I said that, about Call of Duty Zombies on Black Ops 3. And this isn't specifically for Black Ops 3, even though this is going to be the pinnacle of what we're going to be talking about, but it has to do with the overall span of Call of Duty Zombies, where it's been, where it's come from, where's it going, how is it going, things like that. So obviously I was one of the first old school people to enjoy the mode in general. Started at World of War with Nazis, Nazi zombies on Nocturne, Twin, played all the maps. I will say I wasn't as much into the forum stuff, but I did pretty well with the story, and what was awesome later, I think I didn't really start getting into the internet stuff until Black Ops, and then I found like all these old forums talking about stuff on the old maps. I was like, man, I didn't realize there was so much to it. So though I knew a little bit about it when I played in World of War's lifespan, I didn't really fully understand it, and even to this day I don't think anybody really fully understands the story until like Black Ops, but I got more of a grasp of it and saw like how intricate the story actually was. With World at War, I have to say my favorite map, I know it's a very, very controversial. Everybody says, it's the Reese, they introduced Pack a Punch and all this different stuff. My favorite map still has to be Overlooked, just because it had that feeling of, honestly, claustrophobic, and the fact that you were separated from your team if you had a full 4-player team. So the fact that you had to fight each other, and then if they went down, you'd have no way of saving them like in an early round. So I just like that intense feeling. And not to mention back then those zombies were actually creepy, scary, at first. Eventually we all got desensitized if you played the game for a while, but it was really interesting to see like how like scary, like how I felt playing like at night with your friends, how intense it was. So. And then, of course, came Black Ops 2, or not Black Ops 2, but Black Ops. Had a little bit more of intense maps, a little bit more actually fleshed out Easter eggs, like actual puzzle parts to actually achieve an overall objective goal that gave you a reward, whether it be perks, items, guns, whatever. You would have some sort of reward. And I think also Black Ops was the first culmination of you had to finish Easter eggs in multiple different maps to actually do the Easter egg in the last map, which I think was kind of cool too. They did something like that as well in Black Ops 2, not as fleshed out in my personal opinion, but we'll get that here in a second. My favorite map probably in Black Ops had to be Call of the Dead. It's such a stupid reason though, because of course everybody says the crew's kind of annoying, especially Sarah Michelle Gellar. But at the time I was kind of, well, not so I am a fan of Buffy the Vampire Slayer and its spin-off show Angel, but I was never like a mega fan, like, oh my god, I'm gonna start wearing merchandise, consider myself. I've never excuse me, I've never really been a mega fan of any like one thing like that. Like even with Call of Duty Zombies, I'm like a super big fan, and I think the biggest purchase I ever made with that was with the Black Ops 3 Juggernaut edition, and even with that's like the biggest purchase. I still haven't even set up the stupid fridge. It's almost been a year. So but my favorite joke in Call of the Dead was just like, I like not playing Buffy because I like seeing Buffy go down. So it's such a stupid reason, and just that joke is just kind of infamous for the people we used to play with back in the day. But that's the only reason why Call of the Dead is probably my favorite map. Besides that, yeah, George Romero is kind of annoying, but I also don't get as annoyed as some people do about certain things, and we'll get into that with Black Ops 2. So Black Ops 2, of course, it was probably everybody's least favorite game as far as the zombies go, just because you had the characters that were just kind of stupid. You had no real influence on them, especially since we've grown such a attachment to the original characters. It was one of those that, yeah, overall you probably didn't like Black Ops 2. You probably like certain maps, which everybody says, Mob of the Dead as well as Origins, and I like Origins quite a bit. I like every one of those maps for what they were. I know I'm going to get a bunch of hate for that too, but I guess I try not to see it for its faults. I try to see it for what it was trying to go for. So especially like with a transit, you know, the idea of actually having this whole entire town and how you're able to actually move from town to town for certain things, and then you always had to keep on the move. And then if you were in a certain area and then all of a sudden you were out of something or you went down, you need to get your perks. It was an interesting concept. It was like, okay, well, now how am I going to get all the way across town without dying to get these perks? So even though the concept, I like that concept, the execution wasn't as good. And especially a YouTuber called Rad Austin 27, he actually went into the code and kind of looked at what transit was supposed to be like and how much they had to cut out. So when you even look at that, it's like, okay, well, yeah, they had a vision for it, but obviously they just bit off more than they can chew. After that, as well as not, I was about to say Darius, Die Rise. With Die Rise, again, I like that concept, the fact of the verticality, being able to go up and down constantly, you know, have to consider elevators and all that. Again, I like the idea of that. Execution was stupid, especially when you're on top of the elevator and you were trying to do the Easter egg on the stupid panels and then you got crushed by the stupid elevator, okay? So again, one of those things that, again, it does annoy me, but I try to see it for what it was trying to go for, and I like the idea of what it was trying to go for, just, again, wasn't executed properly. Mob of the Dead was obviously very, very different from what we're used to. Liked it, didn't like it. Biggest thing I think was a great improvement that there was an actual ending, you know, with actually breaking the cycle, with actually the Weasel killing everybody, which I thought was kind of interesting. Besides that, I liked the different looks of how the box looked, you know, weapons, all that. And just to kind of speed this up so we can get to the main topic, because we're already at 6 minutes, oh my god. What was the next one after that? I'm trying to remember. Buried I like just because of the western aspect of it. The Easter egg is probably one of my favorite Easter eggs in Black Ops 2, just because of the shoot 'em up gallery. That was amazing. And not to mention too, even though most people won't remember this, I was one of like the first 3 groups in the world to actually finish it. We would have been first if not, but you know, and we'll get to that into that a little bit later, but with like insider information, yada yada yada. So. And then last you get Origins, again, completely different. We get these giant robots. And then I just remember too, like when we actually finished the Easter egg, again, with that one, nobody will remember, but we were the first to finish it live, technically. I even remember we were actually on the front page of Twitch, but nobody probably remembers that. But we were also second technically in the whole entire world to finish it, which was awesome. But again, you don't get credit for second place, you get credit for first place. So, but I remember too when we saw that cutscene and then everybody started flipping, and then part of my language, I'm sorry if there's kids watching this, but everybody started flipping shit, saying, "Are you trying to fucking tell me that the last, 6 years of my life has all been a lie, that it's just been a dream or been a game made up by this little girl?" I remember that. I felt that exact same way. It's like I just wasted my life for this. This is insane. So it was an interesting time. And then of course, people started making theories saying, no, this, if you look at this and then take a look at that and whatever. But we really didn't realize that it wasn't a dream sequence until we started getting teased about Black Ops 3. And now here comes, I guess, the brunt of the talk here. So with Black Ops 3, don't get me wrong, the maps are great. I mean, I like what they're going for. I like all the different stuff they're going for. Again, I try to look at for the positives, not the negatives. So it's a well done map, and you can tell that they knew they had a zombies. They had a zombies following, so they actually put a lot more work to it, which I'm grateful for. I think a lot of the problems now that we're seeing is, of course, with the Easter eggs, being such a thing for YouTube fame. Unfortunately, I mean that's what it's for. There's such a pressure that if you're a zombies YouTuber, you have to do the Easter egg and you have to do it first, because if you're first, it's like that golden rod. Once you have it, or that golden torch, whatever you want to call it, once you have it, you're just going to skyrocket to the top, which unfortunately isn't the case anymore, and I'll explain that why. But at least back in Black Ops 2 and Black Ops, that was the case. Like, man, if you were one of the first, man, you were set for life, quote unquote. And I think because of that, it set up a lot of rivalries, but a lot of selfishness, if I could talk today, with the community in itself. Because again, you would have people back in the day just sharing everything that they found. As soon as they found it, they'd be building off of each other. They'd keep going. Now that's honestly really not the case anymore, especially with the most recent map being solved with the most recent Easter egg. They were one of the first people to solve it, but of course they were grabbing information from other people, other YouTubers, and they would keep that to themselves, which was becoming a problem in Black Ops 2, but is such a big problem in Black Ops 3. And again, I tried to see both perspectives. I understand, again, that golden torch, being one of the first people to solve it, you're set for life on YouTube. Again, I say that, but it just sounds so stupid when I say it. But yeah, you're set for life, you become immensely popular. But unfortunately, that's not the case anymore, because especially with the last couple of maps that people solve it, either you were one of the top YouTubers to solve it, or you weren't, and then all of a sudden you would have the big YouTubers ask you, it's like, hey, can I just upload this cutscene? I'll make sure to give you recognition, and unfortunately, you don't get as much recognition as you should. Not saying you don't get any, but it's not as like, people going directly to your channel. No, they're just going to see the big channel. They see that it's on there. That's all they need. So. And again, I understand as far as the topic goes with competition, but it's just you don't have that feeling of community anymore. That's the basis where I'm trying to get to. That being said, though, let's get into kind of like the main topic what I want to talk about, and then we'll go into kind of where it started with Black Ops 2. So, of course, we have this group. I'm not going to mention them. I'm going to try to keep people as anonymous as possible, because in the end, I don't want people to say, hey, you called me out. And realistically too, with YouTube's new censorship program, because that's what it is, YouTube, I don't want to get strike down and burn in a pile of flames, so yeah, that's gonna happen. But I mean, obviously, if you do 2 seconds of research, you can find who I'm talking about. But you have this group who were playing. They were using glitches to help them out, and then they were also taking information from what other YouTubers have done to reach the end goal. So as far as getting the information, hey, that's been happening since Black Ops 2, and honestly, information with those type of maps are really easy to come by these days, especially with people. I know I had a talk with another YouTuber about this, saying how the people actually that go to Treyarch and actually play the maps early don't really have an advantage. But honestly, it's one of those things, even I think one of the bigger YouTubers mentioned it, saying that just knowing the map helps out a lot. Sure, it's not anything for the long run, because of course you don't necessarily know any of the steps of the Easter egg, but just actually knowing the map straight up and actually being able to go in and play helps out a lot. Because I know my first 2 games I ended up dying like by round 10 because I had no idea where I was going. So that honestly helps out a lot. If you disagree with me, I understand. I understand that perspective, and I also understand the reason why they send out big YouTubers out there to make sure they promote the map. I understand all of that, but you can't deny that it doesn't help. Even if as minimal as possible, you can't deny that it doesn't help. But with that being said, again, you have these YouTubers, taking information from other people, which, again, I don't see as that big of a deal. The big deal I have, or the big problem I have with this, is the glitching part. And it depends on your stance on this completely, because I remember back in Call of the Dead, there was a glitch where you could stand on the lighthouse, and or when you're going down the slide, you could actually manage to get your way all the way up top, and that would help as far as like a pause function goes when it came to multiplayer zombies. And we would do that when we needed to take a quick break and when we come back. So that glitch by some people's definition is okay, because it's not helping you necessarily achieve again, it depends on your perspective, because the glitch that this group was using was they did the undead man walking gobblegum. So they had somebody eat the gobblegum, and then while eating it, they would drop out, and it would constantly have the zombies walk for the rest of the game. Which, of course, once you get to like round 5, they start becoming runners, which is ridiculous, by the way, but whatever. So that glitch, in a sense, helped them solve the Easter egg, especially when they had to escort one of the Russian mechs all the way back to power. When you have walking zombies, that's like one of the easiest steps ever. So again, it helped them achieve the Easter egg at that point. I personally have a problem with it. I know other people may not have a problem with it. And it really depends on your perspective, but it's something where this isn't the beginning of it. We haven't seen that in Black Ops 3. We've also seen it in Black Ops 2. But then it gets worse. And all of a sudden, excuse me, I'm starting to lose my voice while I'm talking here. I haven't talked this long in a row in a very long time. The biggest problem is like when they finally solved it, they were technically, unfortunately, again, more people will disagree with this, but they were technically the first people in the world to solve it. Some people won't classify the first in the world with taking all the information, as well as having the gobblegums. And I understand that, but they technically have the trophy. I don't know if they were the first in the world, because there's even been some situations in past Easter eggs that they were first in the world classified, but they weren't the first people to get the trophy. And that's a whole other topic there. But they are considered the first in the world as of right now. But a lot of people don't want to consider that because, the glitching, the, taking other people's information, whatever. But the biggest problem is then at that point, once they were first in the world, they started just ripping on other YouTubers, the bigger YouTubers that spend so much time, streaming, figuring out steps, doing them properly, yada, yada, yada. And at that point, that is in part, if not a major part, of why me personally, I stopped doing the Easter egg hunts in Black Ops 3. I did it for the first couple of ones, but then just seeing how the community has become, it's a little ridiculous. It's just, I don't understand where it came from as far as, being a, overall giant community, or not giant community, but smaller community helping each other out, to this bigger community where you have these bright spots of popularity, and you'll do anything to get one of those bright spots of popularity. And in a way you could say it's toxic, and in a way you can say it's not even necessarily the Call of Duty Zombies community's fault. It's just Call of Duty in general that's become so toxic, especially with all the EXO stuff. Again, another topic for another day, but it might not necessarily be all of Call of Duty Zombies community's fault. But that's one of the main reasons why I stopped it, because it was ridiculous to the point of, either you had people taking other people's information, or just not hoarding information, yada, yada, yada. That sounds kind of contradictory. It's like, yeah, you're taking the information, so you're saying that you shouldn't share it, or yada, yada, yada. But what I'm saying is we weren't in general as a whole, and then we're also not necessarily sharing the credit too. Because again, not going to strike anybody down, but there's been a lot of people that have taken information from other people and never actually given them credit for. And I've actually seen that a couple of times, but it's also kind of funny seeing how buddy-buddy they were still with that other YouTuber. Even the fact that, they didn't give him credit for anything, because if that personally happened to me, I probably wouldn't associate with them anymore. But that's just me, of course. So it's very unfortunate, because again, the game mode is getting better, but the community is getting worse, unfortunately. And it's you hardly ever see something like that. It's weird. Usually you see the community get worse when the game gets worse, but no, the game is actually getting better. At least the mode Call of Duty Zombies is getting better, but the community is getting worse. And it's a shame, because it was one of those that was my life for the longest time, and now I feel like there's this giant hole in my heart that I can't fill. No, it was just I had to replace it. I replaced it with, personally, Overwatch and a couple other games, but it was one of those things that it's still, those games, no game will ever really give me the thrill that Call of Duty Zombies did in the end. So but yeah, I think honestly that's all I wanted to say. I don't think there's anything I can really add. If anybody else, has a comment, a view, if you want to say KYS, feel free, comment section down below. That's just what the internet is now. It's all about that drama stuff, the negativity. But honestly, if you're on here, you kind of expect that, and you kind of deal with it how you do. But that's just how it goes. But yeah, if you have an opinion, you want to rebuttal all my rebuttals, go ahead, feel free, comment section down below. Share it with your friends, Let's see what you guys have to say about it. I'd like to see if anybody feels the way I do, just like you used to be so into zombies, but not anymore. Not because of the game in general, but just because of the community. So, but anyways, guys, we're going to cut it there for now. So my name has been the Generation 71, and we'll catch you guys later.